Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to host, together with our colleagues from the Community of Democracy Secretariat, the 32nd Governing Council meeting, which is the second meeting in this format under the Romanian presidency of the Community of Democracy. Thank you all for joining. Mr. Secretary General Garrett, dear Thomas, thank you for your constant support. We look forward to continue this very effective cooperation. I also extend our warm welcome to Dr. Richard Haas, President of the Council on Foreign Relations. I thank him for accepting the invitation to enrich our discussion by sharing his valuable perspectives on the future of democracy and the current international trends. At more than half of Romania's term of the presidency of the Community of Democracies, I would like to thank you for your support and to reiterate Romania's continuous engagement in further protecting and promoting the principles enshrined in the Warsaw Declaration. Despite the challenges imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic, the intense calendar we had so far, and the active participation of the Member States of the Governing Council to these events offers us reasons of optimism, and also the energy to continue our common work that is needed now, maybe more than ever. I'm confident that our community will grow stronger from these challenges, and that the meeting today and tomorrow will contribute to this endeavor. Dear friends, as I have already mentioned in our previous meetings, one of the most important aspects that we should consider with respect to our mutual efforts is that while core democratic values and principles are universal, democracy is an ongoing process. We are committed as individual states and together as members of this community to overcome the challenges imposed to our common principles. Not least, we should maintain high on our agenda the common responsibility we have for supporting the emerging democracies, as well as our friends and partners that struggle to advance on the democratic road. Romania is committed to do so. These are preconditions for effective multilateralism, ensuring respect for the rules-based international order. The multidimensional implications of the pandemic on the fundamentals of our societies, on the functioning of democracies around the world, and on diplomacy itself were hard to predict. This crisis determined the rapid readaptation of the multilateral cooperation to the new circumstances. We understood once more that multilateral cooperation and solidarity are indispensable to address global crises. At the same time, the belief that democracies must collaborate in order to prevent the sanitary crisis to become a crisis of democracy became our credo. Thus, our community of democracies became even more important and with a greater responsibility. Dear participants, at the last Governing Council meeting in February, when I welcomed you all in Bucharest, we were envisioning a very different plan of activities for unfolding the Romanian presidency. As you know, we were enthusiastically preparing to host in Bucharest in June the 10th Ministerial Conference to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Warsaw Declaration and of the Community of Democracies. We did not want to give up our commitment, so we adapted. We marked the 20 years since the adoption of the Warsaw Declaration through an online anniversary conference. We found opportunity in challenge, and we were happy to engage in valuable discussions, including with the Honorable Madeleine Albright, one of the founders of the community. Hence, we used the momentum to reconfirm our commitment to our shared democratic principles outlined in the Warsaw Declaration. The Bucharest Declaration adopted on that occasion recognized the challenges imposed by the pandemic. Inter alia, that measures to address the pandemic were being misused to restrict civil liberties, centralize power, manipulate electoral processes, and that external threats from authoritarian influences were exploiting this situation by spreading disinformation. The Bucharest Declaration thus renewed the adherence to the democratic principles as outlined in the Warsaw Declaration. It offered a new impetus to our community by highlighting that, I quote, democratic systems of governance built on respect for human rights, strong institutional capacity, transparency and trust have the best basis to overcome crisis and build back sustainably, end of quote. As part of the celebrations of the 20th anniversary of the Warsaw Declaration, an online exhibition illustrating the relevance of the 19 principles of this declaration was launched. And I invite you all to encourage youngsters and teachers to use this valuable online tool to learn and teach about democracy. Dear members of the Governing Council, as we all agreed that the democratic principles should guide our response and recovery from the pandemic, and in the light of the above, I want to reiterate Romania's determination to continue to pursue the priorities of its presidency of the Community of Democracies. We maintain our intention of organizing the 10th Community of Democracies Ministerial Conference in Bucharest in June 2021. In this view, I count on your valuable support and contribution in the preparation process of the conference, and I hope to see you all in person. As you know, youth inclusion and empowerment, a cross-cutting theme of all activities of the Strategic Plan 2018-2023, is an actively promoted priority of our mandate as Presidency of the Community of Democracies. The two-day virtual youth forum organized by Romania in July offered youth representatives and world leaders a new platform to voice their views and concerns about defending and promoting democracy around the world. The forum gathered 17 representatives of youth-led organizations and other youth stakeholders that shared good practices among world regions regarding youth political and civic participation in order to promote and boost further democratization in the world. The COD Youth Statement adopted with this occasion underlined that youth are indispensable partners in building a resilient world for future generations. We will continue to provide pathways of engagement for youth to make their voices heard in safeguarding the democracy. Therefore, we envision that we will engage with youth at the second edition of the COD Youth Forum that we plan to host in Bucharest in the margins of the 10th Ministerial meeting next year. The Romanian presidency continued the series of events on countering malign foreign interference in democracies, launched 1 year ago. Last month, Romania, in partnership with the Community of Democracies, co-organized the 4th edition of the event, dedicated to safeguarding democracy and countering malign foreign influence. We raised awareness on the impact of disinformation on democracies and underlined the need to join efforts in order to improve societal resilience against the threat that disinformation and infodemic pose. We consider that good practice sharing and debating on this trans-border issue within the Community of Democracies serve as an excellent framework for this purpose. We intend to continue this tradition and organize another conference dedicated to the same topic next year. The pandemic also highlighted the importance of another priority of the Romanian presidency of the Community of Democracies, the link between technology and democratic processes. We need to renew our collective engagement to counter the misuse of digital technologies aimed at weakening democratic institutions and eroding trust in democratic principles. I would like to recall in this context the useful exchange of views on the topic in the framework of the event organized in September by the Community of Democracies on enabling democratic governance through technology. We also look forward to a concrete contribution by the recently created working group on democracy and technology, co-chaired by our esteemed colleagues from Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, in countering threats to our democratic principles, we must act on all dimensions to ensure that all members of the society thrive. Gender equality and women's empowerment are such sine qua non conditions for our democracies to function, to overcome crises, and to rebuild better and more resilient. I thus salute the initiative of the Secretariat to organize an event dedicated to engaging women in sustainable peace. This is an excellent opportunity to take stock of the progress achieved 20 years after the adoption of the UN Security Council Resolution on Women, Peace and Security. Let me share with you my satisfaction for the participation of the Romanian Police Chief Commissioner Raluca Domuță, who was awarded the International Female Police Peacekeeper 2015 in this exchange of views. Romania is strongly determined to promote within its mandate this cross-cutting theme and mainstream it across other activities of our community. Dear friends, I would like to conclude by citing the Bucharest Declaration. Times of crisis can also be an impetus for change. The mobilization of civil society innovations, democratic processes, and demands for reformed institutions and increased accountability point to opportunities for positive developments emerging from the pandemic. End of quote. The Warsaw Declaration should remain our roadmap, and the Bucharest Declaration a framework to answer to the current challenges to our values and principles. We are part of a continuous process that requires collective solutions, partnerships, and cooperation. So I invite you to continue to find opportunities in challenges, to remain focused and engaged in our common endeavors. Romania will further defend the principles underpinning the Community of Democracies by working together with you, Member States, civil society representatives, and youth, and by encouraging further adherence to the Warsaw Declaration and by supporting transitioning democracies. I wish to all of us fruitful debates and look forward to your insights. Thank you.